The Auburn Tigers have lost a commitment. Welcome on into Locked On Auburn. I'm Zac Blackerby, and it's a little Cruton Thursday action with Locked On Recruiting insider and Auburn Daily writer Brian Smith. Earlier today, on Thursday, Brian, news breaks that J'Marion Burnette, the 2024 Auburn running back commit, is now no longer committed to the Auburn Tigers. He tweeted out a few interesting things over the past few days, and now it's official. He is no longer a part of this 2024 class. Your immediate thoughts when you saw this news?
Well, we knew something was trending. I just didn't know if it was going to trend this quickly. And the whole why situation, I don't know the whole backstory, but as you know, I went and saw him play recently, and I really liked him.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they are having a parting of the ways, and I wish him well because he's a really good running back and nice guy. Yeah,
it seems like a good kid for sure. I guess this appears mutual. Like this doesn't. I don't think this is just J'Marion Burnette being recruited away from Auburn. And if I recall correctly, at the start of his, I think going into his senior year, he put out a thing like he's shutting down his recruitment, and he wasn't like popping up other places or anything like that. To me, this seems like it may have been mutual or even Auburn's decision. And I mean, you hate it for the kid because he seemed all in, right? He seemed to get along with the other guys in this 2024 class. They seem like a pretty close group. You and I've talked about that before, Brian. So you hate it. You hate that for him for sure. But I mean, like you said, it's easy to see why this coaching staff liked him, at least at one point, right? I mean, it's big frame, runs with a lot of power. He's got some juice on him. But this seems to me, it kind of seems like an Auburn side of things here.
Maybe it's a fit with what they want to do offensively, going more tempo and being a more dynamic offense. And I'm just throwing out random shots at the wall here.
Sure.
But
speculation.
He is a true downhill, dot the I formation running back circa 1985, but he has the vision and the natural athleticism to play in a dynamic offense too. It's not his first trait, but he's a beat you up guy. He fits the SEC historically to a T. So he'll land somewhere. I'm sure of that. That's not in question. The only place that it could be, in my opinion, is still Power 5. He's still really good.
Yeah, it's interesting because of this. I guess throughout this weekend, I've seen it multiple places. So there's certainly some smoke, but Jarquez Hunter, the possibility of Jarquez Hunter returning after this season, is Auburn a little less bullish on bringing in a running back unless it's somebody that they really, really, really want and think can contribute right away. Because it's Jarquez Hunter, Ryan Batty, Damari Alston, Jeremiah Cobb, John Jackson. I mean, they've got a room that they really, really like. It's probably the deepest position group on this roster. And especially when you look at, who's going to be eligible and able to come back next year, the running back room is still solid, Brian. You got to think that plays a factor as well.
I don't know how it couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I agreed. We were talking about it recently. Hey, what's the deepest spot? Running back seems to be that area. I don't think that there's any question that Cobb is the next guy that can be the most dynamic kind of guy, but he's only a freshman. And you got guys like Petit, et cetera, that are still going to be back. I mean, there are no concern barring injury. And I just wrote about that on Auburn Daily. 5 is kind of like the minimum number because 2 or 3 injuries at running back happen all the time in college.
Totally.
Yeah. Miami was down to a walk-on on their depth chart, short depth chart last year. Ohio State was down to a true freshman playing against Michigan. It happens. So that's the only concern I have. There are some teams that have like 6 and 7 on scholarship because of the injury factor. It's arguably the number one spot to get dinged. So other than that, Auburn's in pretty good shape.
Yeah. And we've seen Auburn use 2 running backs some. They put Cobb at the slot a little bit and motion him in towards the formation. But for the most part, this Auburn offense is going to have just one back on the field at the same time too. So we'll see how they use that from a roster management point of view. Every time we talk recruiting here, it's brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the best place to find any type of hire that you may need for your small business, medium-sized business, large business, it doesn't matter. Go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. They have a ton of screening options as well as anything that you may need to help cast as wide of a net as possible to get the perfect candidate for the job you want to fill. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. They help you find the best candidates for your job faster and quicker and more effective than anywhere else. Once again, LinkedIn.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. And thank you to LinkedIn Jobs for being the official partner of recruiting, sponsor of recruiting across the Locked On College Network. Brian, in regards to, let's look ahead now a little bit. You went and spent some time with Auburn defensive back commit for the 2025 class, Kendarius Reddick. What stood out in your time with this young man?
Well, I've known him since he was in 8th grade because he was that guy. Everybody knew he was going to be a big-time recruit, and it was kind of a how you doing, how's everything been kind of scenario to begin with. But after that, he's matured so much, and physically he's always been kind of a special talent, but everybody knows who they have to kind of look out for when they're playing Thomas County Central. He's their number one guy. He runs the alley for them at strong safety, and just talking to him, he just loves football. It hasn't changed over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Auburn beat out a lot of programs for him. He could play anywhere in the SEC or beyond. And he just told me that Auburn felt like Thomas County Central. It felt like a family, and he had a great relationship with Freeze. He talked quite a bit about you and had a lot of positive things to say, and just talk about how they didn't really talk about football a lot, just kind of about life, talked about family and just basic things. And he said when he was getting ready to commit, you didn't even know it. So they were just kind of just chatting, and he kind of popped it on him. So
yeah,
pretty unique kid.
Yeah. It's listed that Zach Etheridge is his lead recruiter. So he's listed as an athlete in a handful of places, and he's just a defensive back in others. And the fact that Zach Etheridge is recruiting him, I'm assuming he'll play DB at the next level. Do you see him more as a safety at the next level, or a nickel, or how do you see him being used at the college level?
Both. Nickel is the primary, but he's a very physical kid. Typical South Georgia guy, would rather run through you than around you, but he can cover too. He's played corner in his background, and he's just gotten bigger and stronger. He's about a 5'11", 180 right now, and he's got no body fat on him. He's put together. He's projected to play that nickel spot probably because of his physicality. That is the hardest spot to play on defense now, because you get a slot guy on one play, and then the next it's a 6'5", 260 kid at tight end. So you need a true dynamic. It's so hard. There's no way.
It's crazy. Right. Yeah. And you got to defend both directions because they can go inside or outside. It's brutal. It's a brutal job. No question.
So he's one of the rare kids that will, quote unquote, embrace such a role. So Auburn found themselves a great player a year ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it's a kid I know and like very much, so I'm a little biased, but that's a great football recruit to start out at that spot. So Auburn's ahead of the game.
Yeah. When you look at the 2025 class, I mean, it's coming together pretty nicely. And Auburn's in uncharted territory here, just because
that's right.
They've already got 6 guys this 2025 class. And normally it always feels like Auburn's playing catch up. It's like March or April roll around, and it's like everybody else in the conference is like twice as many kids committed as Auburn does. And, they usually catch up for the most part, but this is kind of a different type thing that we're seeing, that Hugh Freeze and the staff are seeing, kind of already looking a class ahead.
Relationships, consistency, long-term plan. Those are the kinds of words and phrases that I would go with. You wanted to be at Auburn. He's got a plan in place, and they're executing it.
Yeah.
And the relationships are the key with any recruit. And they built that, like I said just a second ago, like he gets along with you very well. But at the same time, it's also very important to note that the staff is very involved across the board. In a program like Thomas County Central, that's one of the best programs in Georgia. That's also a good sign. They've got a 2026 kid that's as good a player as there is in the South, and they're after him. So there's all kinds of things that are into the underclassmen ranks. It's going to pay dividends long term.
Mm-hmm. Brian, how can people check out everything that you've got going on right now?
At FB Scout _Florida. Definitely check me out at Auburn Daily. Lots of stuff going on with recruiting with Auburn right now, including the article I put up about Burnette about 10 minutes before he decommitted. My timing is not exactly impeccable today, but nonetheless, it is what it is. But a lot of stuff going on with Auburn. It's going to be very exciting down the recruiting stretch to December 20th.
Yeah, no question. So be sure to follow that at auburndaily.com. It's where you can find all my written work as well. And we'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.